Hello there! Thank you so much for clicking on this video. It's my last Halloween video for 2022 and I packed it with many fun ideas inspired by myself and what I've seen in the store. So I hope you get a kick out of them. So DIY number 1 is an idea that popped in my head while I was shopping at the Dollar Tree, and it involves one of these foam pumpkins. I wasn't sure if it was going to work because of the way they put them together, because they're two pieces glued together, but my idea was to try to turn one of these into a candy jar, like a cookie jar, but they're too small to hold cookies, so I wanted them to be a candy jar. I took a box cutter and I very carefully cut around the top, and I just gauged how big I wanted my lid to be. I didn't measure it or anything, I just eyeballed it, and you don't want it to be in the center because then your bowl is going to be small. So yeah, you just gauge how you want your lid. And I did take the stem off because it had, when I cut it open, I noticed it had this toothpick thing, so I had to take that off. Now it's just decorating however you want to decorate it. I ended up painting mine all white with this white acrylic paint, and I covered that all, I covered all of it in the white paint, and then I hot glued the stem back on. And then after that, I Mod Podge one of these napkins from the Dollar Tree, and I just did that. I covered the pumpkin completely with that, and it was a messy process, but it helped. It did help control the foam from flying around, because you notice that when you cut it, then the foam is kind of everywhere. So the napkin really helped control that. I placed my pumpkin pieces upside down on top of a jar, so then that they can dry all over. And then once all that dried, I just added my candies. The last thing I did do was actually paint some parts of the napkin, and that was it. So this is how it turned out, and I think it's a cute idea. I hope you like it. DIY number 2, I was actually inspired by my youngest son on this one. So he had gotten into my crafting supplies and piled the cotton balls all together. He made a little cotton ball mountain, and then he had put one of the LED lights at the bottom of it. And when it was all together, it looked really cool because it looked like lightning in the clouds, and I knew I needed to do something with that. So I had purchased this glass jack-o'-lantern jar from the Dollar Tree, and I was just going to use it for my bathroom and put cotton balls in it because I use a lot of cotton balls. And I thought it would be neat to use the new idea inspired by my son to make a lid for this jar. So I took a piece of cardboard and I just traced around the top of the jar. I cut that tracing out, and then I took an LED light and I traced around that. Now I traced a little too close around my light. You want to go a tiny bit away from it when you're tracing, just so because I'm going to be putting this in the center, and so you want a little bit of room. After I did that, I did trace a little circle around the top because I wanted this to be where I'm going to poke a hole through. I cut the center tracing out, and now I'm going to put the LED light through the center and hot glue around this light, and then the cut I made on the cardboard, I'm going to hot glue that back together. I took some twine and I tied it to the hole that I made at the top, and then I tied that to the jar. Now I'm going to hot glue a bunch of cotton balls on this. And that was it, and now I have a lightning lid for my jar. And this is how it looks at night. DIY number 3, I have these little wooden ghosts from the Dollar Tree. I have one plastic branch that I recycled. Those are the ones that originally come with artificial flowers, but I took those flowers off for a previous project. And I'll be using a recycled jar. I used one of my kids' toy foam blocks to be my base holder for my branch. I'm going to use spackle to cover those little holes that are on the top of my ghost heads, and as the spackle dries, I worked on painting my jar. Now, I didn't see anyone else do this. I literally went in my kitchen and just started experimenting with different products I had around my house because I wanted to stain my glass, but I wanted it to be kind of a hazy looking stain where I could still see through the glass, and I wanted it to have a different texture. It took some time, but in the end result was using a spoonful of apple cider vinegar and then mixing in some Mod Podge and the paint of my choice. And then I mixed it all together, and then once I mixed it all together, I then started painting my jar. With this one, you don't have to let it cook in the oven or anything. You don't have to do any special tricks. You just let it sit and dry on its own, and it does dry pretty fast, probably maybe under 30 minutes, I want to say. As that dries, I painted my ghost with white acrylic paint. I had a little bit of black paint still left on my paintbrush, which made these little streaks on my ghost. I thought that looked cool, so I kept going with that. Okay, so this is how the glass looks once it's dried, and now to decorate it, I'm just going to wrap some twine at the top. Now I'm simply going to hot glue a ghost onto a stem. So 4 ghosts, and there's a bunch of stems, so one ghost is getting hot glued onto 3 stems. And now I'm going to hot glue my base into the jar. I added some twigs from the Dollar Tree, and I also added some moss from the Dollar Tree. So the neat thing about painting this way is that it's just temporary. So it doesn't rub off really easy, but you can wash it off, and you can use a wet washcloth and just rub it right off. And then what's cool is that you can just keep changing it, and then you can also rub off certain areas of the paint that you want to, and then you can have different looks, and I will demonstrate that to you right now. So this is how the project turned out before I rubbed off the paint. DIY number 4 is inspired by something I seen at the store. I can't remember what store it was. It might have been Michael's, but I'm not sure. To start this project, I have 3 wooden pumpkin-shaped plaques from the Dollar Tree. I took the bows off, and I'm going to sand these down and take off all that glitter. And I used sandpaper, and also a wet paper towel did help with removing the glitter as well. Next, I used black acrylic paint, and I just painted all 3. I used parchment paper to make my own templates, and I taped those down, and now I'm going to just paint around each letter. And for each one of these plaques, I ended up painting a different pattern. When everything dried, I then used white acrylic paint, and I just traced around each letter. Now that those are dry, I then used some hinges, and I'm going to put them all together. The hinges that I used at the time were the smallest I could find, but you're going to want to use smaller ones. Maybe you could find them at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, but this one, they were just like a little bit too big, and they split the wood. But other than that, they worked just fine, and I didn't have to use a drill. I just used a screwdriver. I think using a drill would probably have cracked it even more and made it worse, but a screwdriver works just fine getting these in. You also want to make sure that your plaques are even with each other, because if one is higher than the other, then they're not going to stand right. The last thing I did was just paint over those cracks that were made, and I just painted those black, and then I added a simple bow, and that was it. And this came out really cool. It's one of my favorite ones now. For this next DIY, it was also inspired by something I seen at the store. I saw those ceramic animals, and puppies and cats, and they were all dressed up like little ghosts trick-or-treating. So they were in a ghost costume, and then they had their little trick-or-treat bag, pumpkin pail, and it looked really cute, so I wanted to recreate that. And I found this black cat at the Dollar Tree, and I wanted to use that for this project. I put hot glue at the top of the head and I covered it with white fabric, and then I put hot glue in different places just so I can keep the shape of the cat and the fabric doesn't move around so much. And then I cut the extra fabric off and I cut the bottom so it looks more wavy. I cut holes for the eyes and the nose because I wanted this to look like a cat is going trick-or-treating. And then I did make a little pumpkin pail for my trick-or-treating kitty cat. I wanted this to look like a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin pail, and I just used a marker to draw on the face. I hot glued a little bit of yarn onto my jack-o'-lantern pumpkin pail just to be a handlebar for my cat, and then I'm just going to hot glue that onto my cat where the mouth would be, so it would be like the kitty cat's holding their pumpkin pail with their mouth. Now my mess up was adding marker to the cat's face because I wanted this to have more cat-like features, but I felt like I made it look really weird by doing that, so I did end up changing it. But first I wanted the pumpkin to look like it had candies already in it, which was also kind of, didn't quite work out the way I wanted to. I had the skewers and then I cut them down to little pieces, but then when I glued them onto the pumpkin, it just looked like my little cat had wooden stakes in the pumpkin pail, and so I thought maybe I paint it pink and maybe that would kind of make it look like candy wrappers, but it just still looks like wooden stakes, and it looks like my kitty is a vampire hunter. Okay, so the last two things I did, one was that I added some fabric to make it look like my cat had whiskers, and then two, I added some acrylic paint just to fix my marker mistakes. And I think this came out really cute. I do love it in the end, and yeah, I hope that it came out okay to you also. I always wanted one of those Halloween trees, so I figured I'd make one with one of Dollar Tree's Christmas trees because they have those little Christmas trees out right now. And I have black gloss spray paint, and I'm just going to spray paint that all around the tree. I grabbed a bag of those little bells. You can find these at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to use these as my ornaments, and I'm first going to paint them so I have them separated, and I'm going to paint half of them black and then half of them with this apricot color. The way I painted these is just getting a paintbrush and kind of swishing them around in paint, so they weren't completely covered in paint, but it had a cool kind of look to it. It's that really kind of seemed Halloweenish to me, I guess. In the beginning of this video, I mentioned that this is my last Halloween video for 2022. I'm going to be moving on to other projects now. I have two special request projects that I'm going to be working on, and they're going to be relatable to Halloween and fall though, and then after those I'm going to move on to Christmas. So all of November is going to be Christmas, a lot of Christmas, and I have a lot of Christmas. I have more Christmas ideas than Halloween ideas, so yeah, I hope that you stick around for that if you're not yet subscribed to my channel yet. So anyways, back to the project. When the paint dried on the bells, I then added pumpkin orange to each pile, and that's the last thing I did with painting these. This ribbon I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to wrap it around my Halloween tree, and I didn't need any hot glue to do that. So you could still see some blue at the bottom of the tree still, and that's fine. I kind of liked it like that. I could have covered it more with the spray paint, but I just chose not to. And now I'm just going to wrap this ribbon around. And like I said, I didn't need to hot glue it. I just wrapped it around and it sticks really well to the tree. Next, I hot glued those bells to the tree, and then that was it for the tree. I did end up painting the bottom of the base with black acrylic paint, and then that was it. This is something you can really get creative on, and I love it. I made it simple, but it came out really cute. For the next DIY, I'll be using one of Dollar Tree's skeletons and a recycled can. I hot glued the skeleton to the can, and I also detached and reattached the knees and the arms with hot glue. So I wanted the skeleton to look like it was sitting and relaxing, and I wanted the arms to look like they were bent. Now I'm going to use this spackle from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cover the whole can. I'm also going to add these small rocks, and I believe they're from the Dollar Tree, but I've had them for so long I can't recall. Now, I don't really have anything that could help me spread this onto the can in a way that I want to, so I had to use my hands. Now I'm going to place each rock on one by one, and I'm going to smoosh them into the spackle. I covered the top of the can as well with the spackle and the rocks. The vision I had for the skeleton was a fall fairy reading a book. So what I'm doing now is I got some cardboard and I'm just going to make a tiny book cover. So I have scrap paper and I'm going to use my book cover to make some traces. So these are going to be my pages. I'm going to hot glue each piece of paper onto my cardboard. And now I'm just painting my book, and I'm just painting it with brown acrylic paint. Before hot gluing the book onto the skeleton, I wanted to give my skeleton a coat of white acrylic paint, and then you can notice that the arm is missing because I first want to glue the book on, and then I was going to glue the other part of the arm back on. What I'm going to do next while all that dries is work on my fairy wings. And I have a butterfly from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to adjust it so then it kind of looks more like wings and less like a bug. And to decorate this, I wanted to use some fall leaves. So I hot glued the leaves to the wings in a way that still made them look like wings. Now that the spackle dried, I'm going to paint the can. The goal was to make the can look really rocky and earthy looking. At first I mixed white and black paint together to give it a gray color, and then I added more colors like green, red, orange, yellow, and gold. I kept changing the color of this and ended up with something completely different. It took me forever to decide on a color, so I did this two-sided thing. This project was pretty simple and fast to do. I'm using one of Dollar Tree's signs and a paper tube that I recycled, And also I have a shelf liner from the Dollar Tree, and I'll be using that as well. I'm going to wrap the tube in the shelf liner. No glue is needed for this because if it sticks on like tape, I just peeled the backing off and rolled the tube. Now I'm going to paint the sign all black. I have twine that I will tie to each side of the sign, and then I will tie that to the tube. These twigs are from the Dollar Tree, and I hot glued those to the front of my tube. I'm going to use a wooden bead and tie that to the twine so I can get this all the way through the tube. And then that is going to be how I hang this sign. Now I'm going to stuff some artificial flowers from the Dollar Tree into each side of the tube. The last thing I did was hot glue, and I tied 2 mini witches brooms from the Dollar Tree to the tube, and I made a small bow with ribbon from the Dollar Tree. Now for the final Halloween DIY for 2022 on my channel, and it's going to be one of Dollar Tree's skulls, and I have all these crafting things that I'm going to use. This is a toy from the Dollar Tree. I have some crafting supplies. The feathers are from Walmart, and then and recycled tubes. The first thing I did was paint the skull all black with black acrylic paint. And I'm also going to paint all my side parts. My theme for this skull was steampunk, so all these extra parts that I have, I'm going to paint them all black, and then I'm going to try to make these tubes look like tubes coming out of my skull, like a mechanical type of thing, like a mechanical engine or something. But yeah, that was the goal, was just to make this look really steampunk as much as I could. So for this part, I'll be making a top hat, and I'm going to use the paper toilet tube and the cardboard. So I cut the tube down a little bit, and also I placed it on top of the cardboard, and then I made like a circle around the paper towel tube, and this is, yeah, I'm trying to make a top hat. Little piece I'm going to use around the eye so it looks like a mechanical eye. Now I'm going to take this gold paint, and I'm going to go and brush stroke everything with a dry paintbrush. Now for the hat, I'm going to use this mesh from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to wrap it around, and I'm going to use hot glue, and so after this I'm going to put everything together on the hat, and then I will show you the end result of that. Now I'm going to hot glue all my pieces onto the skull. When it came to the mechanical eye, I used aluminum foil, so I hot glued that on to what will be the mechanical eye, and I didn't have anything else to use for a glass part that would look glass-ish, and so that was my only thing I could use that I could think of. And here is the final result of my final Halloween DIY. I hope you like it. I hope that you like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully. Bye!